Industrial Light and Magic, LucasArts, Skywalker Sound, Lucasfilm Animation. This is Looking at Lucasfilm with Jim Hill and Dan Z.
Welcome to Looking at Lucasfilm, the podcast with a different perspective on the world of Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and all of the other entities that George Lucas, Kathleen Kennedy, and the rest of the team at Lucasfilm have dreamed up over the past 40 years. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and Dan Z, my co-host in the show, has literally just gotten back from Anaheim, where he participated in last week's grand opening press preview of Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland Park. Given that the addition of this brand new 14-acre land to that theme park is obviously a huge thing to listeners to this podcast, well, Dan and I are going to depart from our usual format for Looking at Lucasfilm today. I'm going to put on my reporter hat and quiz Dan about his experience last week and let us all live vicariously through his memories of this one-of-a-kind experience. Well, anyway, Dan, first, the really important question, did you get me anything?
Actually, I have an opening day map for you.
Well, okay, I'll take that.
Yeah, it's quite glorious. I'm not sure if you've seen the paper, but it's a much more higher quality paper. I'm not sure the name of the description of it, but it's really nice.
Oh, very cool. Okay. Let's take a step back here. And when did the folks at Disney and or Lucasfilm reach out and say, hey, what are you doing in the latter part of May?
Well, the first thing, you said you're going to quiz me. This is the best quiz I ever studied for. I really enjoyed preparing for it. I think Disneyland actually called me on the phone about a month before it happened. Mm-hmm. So then I've been definitely salivating over this opportunity for that entire time. You know, you hope, doing what we do that happens, but I was very excited. Just ask my family. I talked about it every single day.
For a lot of folks, they think about a media event or a press opening. It's a glamorous affair, and yeah, you do get to see celebrities. In fact, at what point did you bump into the star of Solo? When did that happen? That
was actually on Thursday. So Wednesday, you get your media badge, and then we got the most unbelievable swag bag you've ever seen. It was this huge backpack. You could get a Resistance backpack or a First Order one. It had a not really nice phone charger in it. It had the Coca-Cola Orabesh t-shirt that they gave away at Celebration. It had both of the novels for Galaxy's Edge are coming out in August. It had a hat. Oh, and it had this beautiful key with the Millennium Falcon on one end, and it said Media Press Event Opening Day, Galaxy's Edge, Disneyland 2019. So it was stunning.
Very cool.
So that was the first day. But you asked me when I met Alden. I was walking down on Thursday, because Thursday was when you go down and you get to do a lot of video interviews for different people. And I'm walking down the hallway, and I look up, and I see Alden Ehrenreich. And we make eye contact, and he's with his family. And he just kind of looks at me and keeps walking. And I thought, wow, what do I do now? Should I say something? Should I let the guy go? He's with his family. But we walk inside of this long lobby, and he's talking to his family about riding the Falcon. And I just couldn't help myself. So I said, oh, dude, you're going to love it. And he looked at me, and he just had his eyes just lit up, and he smiled. He goes, you've ridden that already? And I said, yeah. So I gave him, I told him about it and how I was there for a couple of days. I introduced myself, talked about the podcast. And then I said, and by the way, if you want to be the driver of the Falcon and go to Lightspeed, sit in the pilot right side, and you'll be the person that send everybody to Lightspeed. And so he smiled. He goes, okay, thanks. I said, have a great time. So we shook hands, and he walked off. Really awesome, really nice. And I just love that I actually got to tell Han Solo how to send the Falcon to Lightspeed. It actually happened. I never thought I'd say that.
Oh, that is so cool. Your little chunk of Star Wars mythology here, telling Han Solo how to drive the Millennium Falcon. I love that, Dan. I love that.
And he actually he took a selfie with me too.
Very cool. All right. Well, but again, to get back to, people have a glamorous take on a media event, a press opening. But as you mentioned, the hard reality is you're usually pretty rigidly scheduled. Because face it, your hosts have brought you all this way because their goal is that you accomplish a lot while you're on the ground. Because obviously, the more you see, the more you hear, yes, the more fodder you have for stories, podcasts, that sort of thing. You had to decide in advance who you were going to talk to and what you were going to do, right?
Right. Basically, what happens is they say, we will have interview opportunities. Who do you want to speak with? And I wrote back and I said, I'll talk to everybody, every area. So they sent me to people in foods, in story, in the merchandise aspect of things, and then to talk to the people who helped create the Falcon. And that's what they set me up to do. But you're right, it's very, very rigid. They have time frames. Now, it's not as rigid as I initially thought. So they basically give you like windows of time. The day before, on Wednesday, they said for an hour and a half you have access to the cantina. And then for an hour and a half you have access to the shopping. And then then you have access to this. And then we're kicking you out at 4 o'clock and we're getting things ready for the grand opening ceremony. And then you can come back later in the day at 6 o'clock. So stuff like that.
Okay. Well, to swing back to what happens next, what was the first thing of the day you did?
So the first thing of the day we did, and I'm getting out the schedule now, we went over there. They took us over to Disney. Actually, we walked over to Disneyland. And at the Mr. Lincoln Theater, we had a big press event. And Scott Trowbridge was there, and a lot of the creators from the different individual industries, merchandising and food. And they actually never gave us a list of the people who were on it. So then they basically talked for an hour, just basically a lot of things we've heard before about how this started, how important the immersion factor is, how closely they worked with Lucasfilm to make it happen. And it was Carrie Beck was actually the person who was there for the story group to talk about things. She's the VP of the story group. And so they were just all very, very genuinely excited. I think they're really thrilled to show us what we were going to see. And I think they're also very, very excited to just kind of get ready to open this thing. They've been working on it for, as you said, since 2015. And then they said, all right, now we're going to take you over and you're going to have lunch. So we went backstage. They took us through a circuitous way through the park, and we went kind of back behind basically, let's see, Frontierland or that whereabouts. And then we went and we had lunch. We just had turkey sandwiches, nothing spectacular, and talked to a lot of people. And then it was time to bring us into Batuu.
Was there anything particularly at that press conference? Anything that surprised you? Anything new that really sort of, leaped out at you from the presentation? Or
some of the things that they did, Doug Chang was there. And he's such a cool guy to listen to. And he talked about the fact that he said George thought of Star Wars as historical drama, not science fiction. So he wanted to make sure to kind of bring that out. And he talked about how they went, the Petrified Forest in Arizona inspired Black Spire Outpost, the spires themselves. He talked about going overseas and looking at the marketplaces and looking how they run, how they function, kind of the atmosphere and the decor of that. And they talked a lot about Ralph McQuarrie and how they wanted to have a Ralph McQuarrie look. And then we were introduced to different local colloquialisms that Batuans have when you're there. So when you see a cast member in Galaxy's Edge, they're not going to say hello or good morning. They're going to say bright suns. So that was some of the stuff that we learned about as far as that goes. Those are the kind of the major reveals.
Now to get to the big moment, what was that like to come in? Did they backdoor you? Did they bring you in through one of the entrances?
We came out from backstage. Ironically, it was the only time, because I went in and out of Batuu on 3 different occasions. It was the only time that took us through the backstage entrance. So we go through the back door and the Falcon is right there. Basically, we were standing... like the cockpit is on the far side of where I was standing. So I walk out and there it is. And I've been trying to walk through my mind to sort of replay where I was and how I felt, but I saw it. I kind of put my arm or my hand on James Burns from Jedi News' shoulder, and we just looked at each other and we both kind of let out this weird, like kind of a gasp, like kind of almost like a tear-ridden gasp. And I just kept saying to myself, no one was listening, and I didn't even know or realize if anyone was. I just kept saying, there's the Falcon, there's the Falcon. And we just looked at it with our mouths wide open and walked around. And, people, you keep hearing it makes grown men cry. I'm not going to say that I flat out cried, because I didn't, but I definitely was choked up and just overwhelmed, but I couldn't shake this incredible feeling of happiness. And here's a weird thing, too, Jim. I've dreamed about this moment since 1978 when I first saw Star Wars. And you've seen the pictures and everything like that. When you're actually there and you experience it, you just feel like Well, yeah, of course. This is it. This is how it's supposed to feel because this is a real thing. People are going to feel like they're home. And that sounds really cheesy, but it's absolutely true. If you're a Star Wars fan, when you see the Falcon, you're going to feel like you're home. And of course, how many times did we all say, Chewie, we're home when you saw the Falcon?
A year ago, you're out in LA. You went out and did the premiere of Solo in front of the El Capitan, and they had, was it a third size version?
Yes.
Of the Millennium Falcon? Because I remember there was that wonderful selfie of you, grinning. You had this grin that was so big your head was almost split in half. But the Millennium Falcon is right behind you. But it's this third size, and now to come around the corner and here's the full size. To go from the fun size bar to the full size bar must have been kind of startling, especially with the whole world of Batuu around the fastest ship in the galaxy.
That's actually a great point that you brought up because I hadn't thought about that comparison. Because it's not even close. The one at the premiere was pretty neat and it looked great, but it just wasn't even close to the scale. I mean, this thing is massive. I mean, I'm sure people have seen my pictures. They're some amazing pictures. I was lucky enough on Thursday to get that section. I got the entire landing platform where the Falcon is all 100% to myself, which isn't going to happen too often. So I got some incredible pics of that. But it's definitely, I mean, you can't even believe how massive it is.
So you've come in and you sort of referenced this earlier. There's kind of a regimentation to you're now in the land, but but not everything is open. I mean, for example, I guess the cantina isn't necessarily serving food or drink, or the shops aren't open for actual shopping. Can you walk us through how you did that portion of the day or what you did?
Yeah, for sure. Well, the cantina was open, and you keep hearing these horror stories about how long the lines are going to be. And of course, they are now that it's actually opened. But for us, I just walked right in, no big deal. And they had a couple of different drinks to choose from. They were out there. They didn't have them labeled. So I didn't really know what was what. But I mean, I drank them and taste them, and they all tasted good. There's a pineapple concoction. I thought that was particularly delicious. But the atmosphere, I really think there's a reason that the lines for the cantina, at least at the time of this recording, are more massive than riding the Falcon itself. The cantina is an incredible atmosphere. Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, it's just an incredible environment. It's very warm. The lighting is gorgeous. Even though it's, quote, small, it's not really that small. I mean, it's not massive. You're not going to fit 400 people in it. But there really wouldn't be any fun in that anyway. It's just got a great experience. The booths are massive. I mean, you're talking about a party of probably 15 people could fit in these booths. And then the bar is huge and spacious. There's a ton to see. Rex is hilarious, and what he's doing is great. And, when we first saw the sort of the design artwork, concept art for the cantina and just the way it was created, I remember looking at that thinking, that doesn't look like the cantina. That looks like someone who thinks what the cantina should be. I am happy and delighted to say that the cantina very much feels like a version of the cantina from Mos Eisley, although a little bit more expanded and a little bit more modern. But it feels like it was created by Star Wars fans. It doesn't feel like it's done by pretenders who want to make some money. This feels like an authentic Star Wars cantina experience. It's glorious.
Okay, so you sample a beverage there, you check out the amazing atmosphere. Where to next?
So after that, we went down to Doc Ondor's to go in there and walk around. Now, you mentioned there's basically some challenges to the operation. You weren't allowed to buy anything when I was there in the morning, which is probably a blessing to my credit card. But this is where you have the Kyber crystals and the Jedi and Sith holocrons and these unbelievably fantastic Star Wars pieces of merchandise that I've just never dreamed in my entire life that I would ever see, like Yoda's cane, the necklace that Princess Leia wore at the end of A New Hope when she gives the medals away, which actually was sculpted from the original necklace itself. A couple of robes, but that's not the big place for the robes. You have these massive Sith mini busts for $110 that basically would look like how it might look in a Sith museum. And this is where you've got all the legacy lightsabers too that you can choose from. And the cheapest one, I know there's some different price point challenges out there, But Darth Vader's is $109.99. That's the cheapest one. And then you've got, you can get Ahsoka's, and it actually comes with two because it's her lightsabers from Rebels, and they're $199.99. It actually has a white blade, and there is a Jedi Temple Guard, and his blade is actually yellow. That's the only yellow lightsaber that's in the canon Star Wars. And so I held the Obi-Wan Kenobi one, and I wish I didn't, because I was pretty convinced that I didn't necessarily need it, because I already have a bunch of lightsabers at my home. But as soon as I held that thing and turned it on, I was like a little kid again. I was like an 8-year-old boy, and I just couldn't get enough. And there are also a ton of Easter eggs in there, too, if you want me to talk about those.
It's funny that you mentioned the Easter eggs, because Alice and I went out to our local comic book store, and I picked up the second issue of Marvel's Star Wars Galaxy's Edge comic book. And the interesting thing is the storyline of this is actually set at, or significant scenes from it are set at the Den of Antiquities. And what I love about the artwork is they actually have buried some of the Easter eggs in the background. And I love the fact that it's not just Star Wars stuff that's stashed back there.
No, I found the Ark of the Covenant.
Did you?
Yeah,
really?
a 1/1 scale Ark. It's if you have your back to Doc Ondor, basically if he's over your right shoulder and you look up kind of above where it's hard. This is sort of hard to visualize, but if you look up in the air with your back to Doc, as far to the left as you can go away from Doc without running into a wall, you look up and you can see the Ark of the Covenant behind, like kind of a box, and there's just no mistaking it. I actually had a cast member point it out to me, and so that was really, really cool. And then on the wall you've got all kinds of blasters and a ton of helmets, and then you've got, you know, a tauntaun head mounted up there. There is actually a cattle from Solo that didn't actually make the final film, but they had it in the concept art, so they put that up there too. There's a ton of great stuff. I mean, you could get lost in there.
Oh, and we could probably spend an hour or more talking about, you know, the various, I believe they call them merchandise experiences. It's not just shopping, folks. It's a merchandise experience.
That's actually true, too. I mean, you wouldn't believe how you just really feel like you're in a place you never dreamed you would ever see. They have Hera's, I think it's called a Kalikori. That's sort of her family history. You can buy one of those. It's got, like I said, the holocrons themselves are nice, and just the way they're displayed. I mean, good luck getting out of there without buying everything in the store.
But you did eventually get out of there, and the thing is, it's one thing to stand next to a full-size version of the Millennium Falcon. It's quite another to actually get to fly it. Now, you had a window from 3 to 4 that day.
That's right.
To fly the Falcon. So we got to talk about that. You flew it 3 times and did all of the positions.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I ended up doing it 4 times, actually.
Oh,
now that's,
okay.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to make sure that I got to experience all the different positions that you can have, so you know what your roles are and what to recommend. And I was told, I received a hot tip that if you sit on the pilot side, on the right-hand side, as I said earlier in the show, that's the Falcon. So that I made sure that I wanted that the first time I flew the Falcon, I needed to put in a light speed. So they let us in from 3 to 4, and the queue is massive. And the great thing about the queue is that while you're going through the queue, you see a bunch of cool stuff on the interior, but you also get to see the back side of the Falcon, which you can't do unless you're in the queue line. And it's just as detailed and gorgeous as it is at the front. I mean, it is absolutely stunning. So then you get inside, and the first thing you do is you go into a bay, this huge bay, and this is where you see the Hondo Ohnaka animatronic. It's about a minute and a half show, I guess. They show the Falcon land. He talks to you. There is an R5 unit that's up there that Hondo has kind of sprayed like weird little teeth on it to make it look like a little baby monster. And he does his thing, and then you walk through, and before you know it, you're in the hold of the passenger hold of the Falcon. You've got the Dejarik table. You've got plenty of time to walk around and take pictures of things. And I never ever felt rushed, like I wasn't getting a chance to do everything. But it's cool when you walk in, it kind of feels like there's like this slow, quiet kind of a purr of an engine. It's kind of like when you're walking on a jetway into an airline or into an airplane. It kind of has that feel to it, which I thought was a really, really nice touch. And they give you these cards that say what your role is on the plane, or on the Falcon itself. And then you all of a sudden it opens, you watch another little video. They move you around really, really good. I remember on Avatar, I feel like you standing in that area where they tell you how to fly the Banshee. I feel like you're in there for a long time. The Falcon, you're not in anywhere for a really, really long time. And then the door slides open, and you can take some more pictures, in sort of the hallway, which I certainly did. And door slides open, and you're inside the cockpit, which is pretty big. I mean, they've extended the actual length of the Falcon cockpit just for this, so you can put 6 people on at a time. And then you're ready to go. You put on your little seatbelt, and you make sure you pull the yellow lever so that it's on securely, and it's time to fly.
Of the 4 different positions that you occupied, did you have a particular favorite, or?
Flying it is great. The first time I did it, when you're on the right side and you're doing light speed, you're in charge of up and down, whereas the pilot on the left is in charge of left and right. Mm-hmm. So that was super fun. It was a little bit stressful because you've got Hondo yelling at you and you've got people oohing and eyeing and screaming. And then you better pay attention to those lights that are up in front of you. And then you got to steer it. So it's actually fun because you do feel like you're sort of working. I'm not 100% sure how responsive it is. I do kind of feel like even if you really do terribly, I do feel like it's still going to steer you anyway. I mean, I would be interested to see what Len and other people say about that. I mean, there are definitely times I felt like I was going up and down when I wanted to. But it was sort of hard to say because it's your first time and you're just overwhelmed and excited by it. So that one's good. I was a little underwhelmed by being in charge of the cannons and the weapons. I mean, it's not like you can do manual or automatic targeting, so that adds a little bit more to it. Basically, you just keep pushing a button. It's not like you hold a joystick or like a cannon operation thing like you do in the movie. You just kind of push a buttons to your right or to your left. But my favorite is probably the engineer at the very, very back because you're always pushing things and you can feel the engine turning off, and you can, when you push certain buttons, you kick it on again, and it very clearly lights up about how to do it. But I just feel like it was very active. And from the very back, you kind of get the best view of the cockpit anyway in the actual ride itself. So I thought that was pretty fun.
Okay, so it's 4 o'clock, and at this point, don't they chase you out? Because, of course, there's the grand opening party coming, right? Or
yeah, that's right. Before that, though, I had a few minutes to go through the marketplace and take some video in there and look at all the different unique collectibles that are there, too. I mean, I've said it before, but it's an absolute Star Wars merchandise fan's dream because there's no packaging. There's no, it doesn't feel commercialized, even though it is. You know what I mean? It just feels like, and even though it's supposed to feel like, for example, the Stormtrooper kind of action figure / doll that young Jen Erso plays with at the beginning of Rogue One, that looks just like it did from the film. And the other things that are there that are supposed to be of a similar style, they're really nice. There's a bunch of kind of wooden action figures that look kind of like they're modeled after the ones from Droids from the 80s cartoon show. So that was really impressive. And then I went over to see the Dianoga that comes out above the drinking fountain. I think every minute and 25 seconds or so it pops up. And probably the weirdest thing I've ever done, I went inside the refresher or bathroom, as most people know it, to see the style there, and even that looks unique. And so I took a bunch of pictures in the bathroom when no one was in there. It wasn't totally creepy. Just to kind of see what that was like. It kind of reminds me of the old sinks at Wrigley Field too. Some of the stuff they have put out. It was incredibly fascinating. But then yes, after that, we were able to walk around a little bit, but then they had us leave. And we went backstage, and there were a bunch of shuttles that took us over to the hotel again.
They had to sort of redress the land for the grand opening party, and that must have been intriguing as well, because you come back to the land, and of course, Black Sparrow Outpost during the day is one thing. Black Sparrow Outpost at night with the area lighting and all that is quite another. And what was it like to be in there for the party?
That was gorgeous. I mean, everyone was so excited. I mean, there were a ton of Star Wars celebrities there. We were all just flying high because we knew it was going to happen. This is where you could get the Coke and water bottles, the very unique ones. They were just giving them away to people. You just go to the bar and get them. This is where you could try some of the food, because during the day we weren't allowed to try any of the food. This is where you could try the blue and green milk. So basically, to try everything, it wasn't labeled either, which was a little disappointing. But so you would just go by and you'd have to catch a waiter or a waitress, and you'd get stuff, and you get little bite-sized samples of stuff. Very much like a cocktail party atmosphere. But I also got to see the first appearance of V. Moradi. I think that's how you say her name. The Resistance spy. I got to see Disney's first presentation of her. It was about 2 minutes or so, and she fights the stormtroopers, and Chewbacca comes out, and there's explosions and fireworks, and people really oohed and ahhed over that. I got to talk to James Arnold Taylor and Kat Tabor there. I didn't talk to Bob Iger, but he was walking around. I mean, it was Fred Savage was standing behind me during the actual presentation itself. So that part was pretty cool, and I can gush if you want about the actual ribbon cutting moment itself for sure.
A lot of us saw that online, and it was wonderful to see, Mark. It was wonderful to see Billy D. But you and I talked prior to the event about how unlikely it was going to be that Harrison was going to take part, because he was actually out doing press for Secret Life of Pets 2.
Yeah.
What was it like to have him come on stage?
So about an hour or two before, there was kind of a buzz going around that Harrison and George were going to be there. But I'd remembered what you'd said, and I just thought, I've been at events before where Harrison was going to show up and he wasn't there for whatever reason. I felt like it was likely that George would be there. And as if people looking at Lucasfilm listeners know, I've got to meet George and talk to him before. But you never get tired of seeing the maker in person. And I was pretty lucky. People saw my pictures on Instagram and Twitter. I was really, really close to the stage. I mean, I was like, I could toss a piece of paper if I wadded up real good and hit him easily. That's how close I was.
Okay.
So I didn't, of course, but that just sort of gives you an idea. And so they all walk out, and I'd never seen Mark Hamill in person before, so that was pretty glorious. Then they had an actor as Chewbacca come into the cockpit of the Falcon, the actual Falcon that's right there. And then Harrison was announced, and I kept turning over my shoulder because I could see the teleprompter in the back. But when they were about to announce Harrison, I couldn't really tell. And then all of a sudden you heard, she may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts. And it was his voice. And I think I can honestly say that there are 3 moments where I got incredibly emotional. One was seeing the Falcon. One was something we're going to talk about later with the lightsabers. And the next was seeing Harrison Ford walk up and see the Falcon and him walk around and talk to everyone and then go up and pretend like he was hitting the Falcon to get it jump started and saying, this one's Peter, this one's for you. Because he actually did say that. I heard him say it myself. Yeah. And he was just smiling and happy and he looked great. And then there were the fireworks and the Falcon was lit up. And it was like blues and the orange. And it was probably one of the finest moments I've ever had as a Star Wars fan. I just kept thinking, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe that we are here. It was completely glorious.
Okay, so party's starting to wind down, and you're going to have to leave Batuu. Is there anything you did? Is there, anything you did to make your last moment at the party special? Or
well, after that happened, I still had about 2 hours. So, I did everything. I went to the cantina for a little bit. I walked around the First Order gift shop. This is where I actually tried the blue and green milk. I went around and talked to a ton of people. Just kind of soaked it all in. I rode the Falcon again. I rode the Falcon at night, and I can happily say that the Falcon is a different attraction at night. When you're leaving and landing on Batuu, it's dark. And there's something about the way that it's filmed. But during the day, it's sometimes it's a little easy to see that it's a screen. It doesn't feel like that incredible HD 4K screen that they have at Avatar, and the Flight of Passage or whatever it's called. Here, sometimes you can tell you're looking at a screen, but at night it's much the verisimilitude, the suspension of disbelief is much stronger, so you can definitely make it happen that way and make it feel more like it's a part of it. I did run into Drew a bunch of times throughout the day also, by the way. He and I hung out in the cantina a little bit, and we got a picture together, and we sat by each other during the press conference at Disneyland, and it's always great to see him. He is hilarious, and it was fun to kind of experience it with him too. We were going to go and build a lightsaber together, but he ran off, and it's really, as you know, with these things, you're being pulled in 10,000 different directions, and it's just really, really hard to make it all work.
That's it exactly. In fact, I'm proud of you that you managed to accomplish as much as you did.
Yeah, thanks.
Given the way they run you ragged at these things. So tell you what, folks, we're going to go do our commercial break here, and when we get back, we're going to get Dan's actual insights about the land, the stuff that the Star Wars fans really want to hear.
Every leap in American history has needed breakthrough energy.
Ignition, liftoff.
Now, AI is here, and Chevron is working to power it. We're aiming to develop multi-gigawatt power plants near data centers, designed with future pathways to lower carbon intensity. AI gets the power it needs, communities get the jobs, and the grid stays strong. Powering AI today builds America's next superpower.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Psst, healthcare pros, word's out, and it's too good to keep quiet. Look, LinkedIn is revolutionizing job hunting, making it possible to search by specialty, shift preference, and salary. Endless scrolling is out. Whether it's a mental health therapist or dental hygienist, finding the perfect role is faster and easier than ever. Head to linkedin.com/healthcare and start your search today.
When it comes to visiting the land, Len and I are going to do a special Bandcamp exclusive show where we discuss how, as a visitor to Disneyland Park, and hopefully, extrapolating that to Disney's Hollywood Studios, the best way to make the most of your time and what you can't miss as somebody on vacation. Dan, people want to know, if they're there as a Star Wars fan, what they should see, what they can't miss. I mean, for example, you talked a little bit about going into the marketplace and the bazaar and obviously the Den of Iniquities and that sort of thing, but is there anything else people should really, as a Star Wars fan, circle back on and see?
I mean, personally, there's a creature area, which is really fun. They've got the Loth Cat there, but it's only asleep. It never wakes up or anything, so just kind of basically see it sleeping and twitching its tail, and it's cute. But from a merchandise perspective in the bazaar, they've got sabacc decks, which they've never really sold. And then they've got a little wooden Dejarik chess sets. And I mean, when I go back, that's what I'm going to buy, undoubtedly. So to me, the sabacc deck is kind of a really, really incredible item.
We talked earlier about Oga's Cantina, and having been all over Oga's, is there anywhere you'd suggest that, if they really want to have that sort of quintessential Star Wars experience, they should ask to be seated? Right.
Well, the bar itself, standing at the bar is nice because you can kind of get a lay of the land. It really just depends on the noise, I guess. I mean, it's loud everywhere. I mean, it's not grating loud, but it is loud. I mean, it's a small space. But some people were sitting over by Rex, so they could just get really close to him. If you sit on the massive booths that I talked about, they're very much, they're completely as opposite of Rex as you can possibly sit is where the giant booths are. And they're nice. They're a little more quiet. They're a little more isolated from some of the energy. Most of it seems to be centered around the area where Rex is, but both sides of the bar seem to have the same things on top of them to look at. There's a Dianoga in there you can find and stuff like that. But the actual drinks, like themselves, are very, very cool, very unique. And then the stills, the places where you can really get the drinks out of them are cool. Make sure you go up and get the coasters. There are 5. I think there are 5 different coasters. And so make sure you grab some of those, and they're just giving them away. It's not like you have to sneak them.
Okay.
But there's no bad place to sit.
Good answer, or at least a Disney-approved good answer. Now, you mentioned being in the Den of Antiquities and the Legacy lightsabers in there, but did you get into Savvy's workshop? Did you actually get to observe the whole lightsaber construction thing?
One of my goals was to resist purchasing a lightsaber because I've got so many of them. But, of course, the Force was strong with me in my desire to spend money when it comes to Star Wars. So I did it. I went in with Clayton Sandell and Anthony Bresnikan. And then Becky Menken and Lou Mangello. We all went in together. And myself, Becky, and Lou all bought and did the experience. And let me tell you, Lou, not Lou, Jim, this experience is unlike anything I've ever done in Star Wars, anything I ever thought I would do. It's not cheesy. It's glorious. It's about 20 minutes. You actually construct this thing. The kyber crystal aspect of it is stunning. And I know there's videos out there so people can check if they want. I would recommend that you wait for the reveal. That if you get to feel what I felt, I mentioned earlier there were 3 moments I got choked up. There's a moment after you construct your lightsaber that you actually, it turns on and it's revealed that the blade actually works. Where I wept. It was just so incredible. It is the greatest Star Wars experience you could possibly have involving a lightsaber. It really is it's just so magical. And the music and the way it's timed, and our hostess, she was incredible. But the different things that she says, and the music coincides with it beautifully. And then when she says, in the green kyber crystal, when they say that, suddenly the entire room is green, and then the purple, everything.
I was about to say that I was watching one of the videos, and I love the stagecraft of it, between the underscore, or as you mentioned, the discrete lighting effects and that sort of thing. I mean, it really is. It seems like a theatrical moment, only you're on stage and it's happening to you.
To you. And then this is where you get some big reveals. You wear a special, depending on which of the 4 options that you pick of the lightsaber. I picked Peace and Justice for the Jedi. You get an exclusive button that you wear on your shirt so they know which one you're going to build. And it's, if people are concerned about the cost, think of where the kids go and they do the princess thing where they get the dress and they put glitter in their hair and fix their makeup and make them look all gorgeous and cute and have fun doing that. This is like that for adults who want to build lightsabers.
That is an excellent analogy. That really is. Thank you for pointing that out.
You're welcome. And I'm telling you, if I was going to be in Galaxy's Edge and I had a small amount of time and I could only do one thing, I mean, initially it might break your heart because you only do one thing, but this is what I would do. I would go to Savvy's and build a lightsaber. That is, to me, that is the absolute must-do, even more than riding the Falcon.
All right, you heard it, folks. As you were walking around Black Spire Outpost, did you come across any place like a quiet corner that you could really sort of sit back and, sort of take in the whole world?
Oh, there's a ton of them. Even though it's a massive land, I mean, it doesn't, when you're walking around, it doesn't feel like you're walking around Animal Kingdom or anything like that, but it's massive. I mean, over by Ronto's Roasters or Docking Bay 7, or the kind of the pathway that leads you over to where Rise of Resistance is eventually going to be. There are a ton of little tables and benches and shaded areas. Outside of Oga's, there's some places you can sit down to. Yeah, there's plenty of spots. I mean, people have no trouble taking a break.
From a storytelling point of view, as a fan, were there any particular details that tickled you? I mean, I've been looking over a lot of the photography that people have done of the land, and if you go around to the back of Oga's Cantina to the loading dock area, the Imagineers actually made a point of sort of painting in where delivery vehicles had bashed into the loading dock, so you can see the skid marks or the paint from the vehicles or that sort of thing, to tell you this is a real world and things get dented and dirty. Were there any details like that you enjoyed?
Well, the main one I said is when you're in the hold of the Falcon, you can hear the ship. It just kind of feels like it's really about to take off, kind of like slowly with the engine kind of on. Hearing, if you get a moment and you're able to just kind of walk around, and it's going to be tricky because there's going to be a lot of people there, but there's always different sound effects and sort of piped in stuff from the bazaar, or the sound of animals or the sound of ships flying by, and quiet music, and it really adds to the ambiance of the place. And being inside Doc Ondar's and seeing the different things, I mean, you could get lost in there. You could spend hours in there just looking at all the different Easter eggs that they have hidden. Seeing the blaster fire on the wall outside of Oga's Cantina is really, really cool. And the comic books kind of allude to how that may have happened. Seeing the droid in Ronto's Roasters that used to be in Jabba's palace spinning the meat, I thought was really, really fun. Seeing the land speeder over there. There's a smaller version of Han Solo's land speeder from the beginning of Solo, a Star Wars story, which is cool. We could spend 30 days doing recording sessions, and I couldn't even begin to tell you all the different things that are there. I mean, there is no exaggeration when it says this place is packed to the gills with Star Wars stuff from the movies, but also from Rebels, also from Clone Wars, also from comics and books. And it very, very much feels, this isn't pretend, folks. This feels like it was done by people who love their Star Wars and know their Star Wars, and I can't imagine anyone being disappointed.
Okay. One final question, and the California version of Galaxy's Edge opened without Rise of the Resistance. We're being told we're at least a couple months out from the opening of that. That was the anchor for the whole ruin section of the park. And as a direct result, sort of the center of gravity of the land has shifted. So many people are in the bazaar, in the marketplace, because there is nothing to do really other than, say, go over and look at the Resistance camp or the Resistance outpost. We can buy merch and that sort of thing. Should people wait till Rise of the Resistance opens to get
Right.
their initial visit into Batuu? Or
Well, it's certainly going to thin out the herd if that happens, because there really isn't anything going on down on that end. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, you can get a picture in front of the Resistance X-Wing, which is incredibly cool. And there's some cool atmospheric stuff, and there's great scenery, and this is actually a good place to go down and listen to the sound effects and the audio that they piped in and add to the authentic feel. So I recommend that for sure. And when you're entering the land from Critter Country or wherever you're entering from, there definitely is a dividing line, and I put some video of that up, where you can tell you're in a different place. I mean, you do not feel at all like you're at Disneyland. I mean, not for 1 second do you feel like you're at Disneyland. But as far as waiting, I don't know. I mean, if I didn't go to this media event, even knowing that the Rise of the Resistance wasn't open, nothing would have kept me away. Just because the stuff that is going on, there's so much room to walk around and navigate, and just seeing the Falcon is such a breathtaking moment that I think it's worth it. Now, if you only go to the parks maybe once every 10 years, then yeah, I'd wait. I'd wait. But if you're a regular or just a massive Star Wars fan, and you think, you know what, I'll just go again when the Rise of Resistance does it. Now, that's not practical for people, so, please don't misunderstand me. If you only go once, then it probably is more prudent to wait. But I don't think, if you're not able to wait, I don't think you'll be disappointed, because it's really is a wonderful place.
Thank you so much, Dan, for sharing your thoughts on the press event and, looking back on what it was like to be among the first to get in there. Any final thoughts, or any folks you want to acknowledge or thank? Or?
Well, I just want to thank the people at Disney and Lucasfilm for having me be a guest for this incredible experience, and just the great times I had with the people I mentioned, Clayton and Lou and Drew and Jermaine and all the awesome people there. It's just, everyone was so happy. There was nothing negative or complaining. People were just loving being here, and I have no doubt we'll be talking about this a lot on Looking at Lucasfilm for a long time.
Okay. Well, but until our next show, if people want to hear what else you're up to, or your other thoughts about what's going on in the amazing world of Star Wars, where can they find you?
Sure. Well, on Coffee with Kenobi, we're probably going to have 3 or 4 different shows dedicated to this media experience for Galaxy's Edge. So we're going to have a lot more detail there. There's a ton of stuff I put on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, and all Coffee with Kenobi social media for people to get a lot of video and pictures and behind-the-scenes stuff. We have a Coffee with Kenobi Patreon page where we have a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. I share on some video and exclusive podcast content there as well. And you can look at my writing on StarWars.com and IGN.
Okay, on my side of the fence, we've got Disney Dish with Len Testa, which, as I mentioned, we'll be getting into the op side of this brand new Land of the Parks. We've got Drew Taylor. We do the fine-tuning podcast with him. Over on the Universal side of the street, I do Universal Joint with Dustin Hughes. Michelle Valladolid and I are doing the Disney merch-based podcast, and we're actually kind of dreading doing the Galaxy's Edge episode, because that'll only be 3 or 4 hours.
Oh, easily.
And then, of course, there's the Marvelous Disney podcast that I do with Aaron Adams. And if you like what Dan and I do, please do us a favor and head over to iTunes and rate and recommend not just the podcast here at the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, but also Coffee with Kenobi and Dan shows. Head over to Bandcamp and subscribe, and take care, okay?
Thank you for listening to Looking at Lucasfilm with Jim Hill and Dan Z, one of many great podcasts on the Jim Hill Media Network.